Okay, what's going on, everybody? We are here. We are live. I want to thank you all for joining me today. If you can see and hear me clearly, please drop a one in a live chat, and then we can get today's stream started. I'm having some slight technical difficulties, very slight. Doesn't look like it's too bad. But if you can see and hear me clearly, please drop a one in the live chat, and then we can get today's show started. And as I'm waiting for the ones to come into the live chat, if you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button because that's the most important thing you can do for me on this channel. What it does, that helps make sure that those who are subscribed to the channel will indeed get the notifications, and it also helps to push this video through the YouTube algorithm as well. Secondly, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you've been ghost watching this channel for quite some time now, shout out to all my ghost watchers who are watching my videos, watching my live streams, but no, hit the subscribe button. Please do me a favor and yourself a favor by hitting the subscribe button, as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button, so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. And lastly, but most importantly, for sure, please make sure you follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group to help circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. And now that I see the ones are coming into the stream, let's get the show started. Ladies and gentlemen, we are 1 day away, less than a day away, from Inauguration Day. A day that I like to call Mass Deportation Day. Okay. Final warnings have been sent out to illegal immigrants who took advantage of the Biden administration. And for those who have not taken heed to those final warnings from Tom Homan, well, I guess let the games begin. Let the games begin, because according to Tom Homan, he will be, and I quote, taking the handcuffs off of ICE. He is taking the handcuffs off of ICE. That is one of his many warnings that he has issued out now in these last and final days or last couple hours of the Biden administration. I want to jump into this article first before we get into some videos surrounding Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, and many others, right? Let's get into this right now first. Tom Homan gives illegal immigrants warning in final days of Biden administration. And his final warning is, you're going home. I quote, you're going home. Sanctuary city or not, you're out of here. Okay, let's jump into this very quickly before we get into the video clips that I have for you all today. President-elect Donald Trump's incoming border czar, Tom Homan, on Sunday issued a stern warning to migrants illegally entering the U.S. in the final days, now the final hours of the Biden administration. In a Sunday appearance on Fox News, Homan warned recent arrivals to the U.S. under President Joe Biden to prepare for a hasty departure under the incoming Trump administration. And I quote, "We are trying, but this administration, even after what happened the last couple of days, they're still bringing thousands through the CBP1 app, the CHNV program for Cuba, Nicaragua, Haiti, Venezuela," Homan said. "They're going to do as much damage as they can until President Trump walks back into office." And we're going to get into some of that damage that Biden did also, too, as the show carries on. But I quote, Homan states, "But a message to those thousands that they're still bringing in every day," he added, "you're going home. You're going home. It's time to go home. It is time to go home." Now, what I want to do is that I want to pivot to a recent interview, that was done a couple hours ago with Tom Homan on Fox News. And what he's going to address is the plans that he has for Chicago surrounding the leaks that came out of ICE. I don't know if many of you know this or not, but some douche, to say the very least, leaked ICE's planned raids, you can call them, as it pertains to the areas that they are going to hit in Chicago in search of Tren de Aragua. I'm talking about dates, times, and places. This stuff got leaked out. And of course, the press ran with it, right? So he's going to address some of this right now, as well as a few other things. and then we're going to get back into some other information. But this is beyond unbelievable that somebody would leak that kind of information, essentially putting everybody in danger, right? Not just the ICE officers, but those who live in these, so-called immigrant communities that Brandon Johnson apparently cares so much about, right? So let's jump into this clip right now, and then we're going to get into some more information afterwards.
Administration is reconsidering immigration.
Let me rewind that back from the top. Take two.
And the Trump administration is reconsidering immigration raids that were reportedly set to begin this week after details of the operation were leaked to the press. ICE may also face problems navigating sanctuary city laws. New York City Mayor Eric Adams telling the New York Post, "The law is the law." And NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch says, quote, "The law in New York City basically is that the police department will not assist in civil immigration enforcement." Incoming Border Czar Tom Homan joins us now. I guess that remains to be seen. What does hitting the ground running look like for you tomorrow at 12:01 p.m.?
Look, ICE is going to be, we're going to take the handcuffs off ICE that they've had put on by the Biden administration and let them go do their job. And
I love that. Sorry to interrupt so soon, but he said we are going to take the handcuffs off of ICE that Biden has put on them. They've been handcuffed for a long time now, 4 long years. The handcuffs are now coming off.
At 12:01 p.m.
Look, ICE is going to be, we're going to take the handcuffs off ICE that they've had put on by the Biden administration and let them go do their job. And the president's been clear, I've been clear. Right out of the gate, we're concentrating on public safety threats and national security threats. So I find it troubling to this day that any sanctuary city, any elected official, does not want public safety threats removed from their communities. Let us into the jail. Because if you let us into the jail, we can arrest a bad guy in the jail, right? But if you release them into the community, it puts the community at risk, puts our officers at risk, it puts the alien at risk, because anything can happen on an outside arrest. So let us into jails. It's safer for everybody.
Tom, let's go through a couple of things here. Washington Post has you, as of yesterday, talking about reconsidering a raid in Chicago this coming week. Is that true? Or?
We're not reconsidering any operation. There was a leak in Chicago, so we're looking at that leak and find out how does it affect officer safety concerns. Chicago's not off the table, but we're reconsidering when and how we do it, because there was a
leak. Would it
leak.
benefit you, based on your objective there, not to talk publicly so much about your plans?
Specific plans. What was leaked in Chicago was more specific, what was happening, and that raises officer safety concerns. They already have a dangerous job. Like I say, they're going to arrest public safety threats and national security threats. Dangerous. But when those bad guys has a heads up that we're hitting you at this time, this day, it raises officer safety concerns, specific operational plans. So we're looking at it. What was leaked? What's that actually in there? And how is it going to affect us moving forward?
Very specific operational plans were leaked. And if I'm not mistaken, if I heard him correctly, he said it was published by the Washington Post. I can't say what I really want to say, but that's just another level of disgusting, right? When you're looking at the Washington Post, but it's not surprising. It is a DNC media outlet, right? It is a DNC media outlet, so that's not too surprising that they would leak their operations out there concerning time and dates when they would be hitting up places where Terrain de Aragua would be located at. But as Tom Homan said, when you're doing something like that, you're putting everybody's life at risk. You're putting the ICE officers' lives at risk, and then you're putting those who live in the city, their lives at risk as well, too. Now that the, quote, bad guys have the heads up, you're talking about all type of unnecessary shootouts and everything like that going on. They'll be waiting. It'll be chaos in the streets. But then again, chaos in the streets is something that apparently Democrats love. Right? It appears that way because that's how they operate, in a very chaotic fashion. Now, you take this into consideration on top of all the other roadblocks that have been put in place. And once again, you're looking at a very dangerous situation for everybody that can lead to unnecessary loss of life. But then again, once again, do Democrats really care about unnecessary loss of life? Not really. Right? They'll just use that as a way to spin it in their media news networks to say, you see the problem with mass deportation? You see what's going on? Trump and Homan implemented this, and look at all the carnage that's happening. But it's carnage that was created by the DNC for constantly standing in the way. before Trump could even get into office. Take a look at this right here. I want to go into two articles very quickly, and then we're going to jump into a video from Kristi Noem, right? Biden extends temporary status of nearly 1 million migrants ahead of Trump deportations. What a douche, to say the very least, trying to make it difficult for people to get deported. The Biden administration announced Friday it would extend temporary deportation relief to nearly 1 million people from El Salvador, Sudan, Ukraine, and Venezuela, just days before Donald Trump enters the White House with a vow to restrict the program. The move allows people from these countries who currently have temporary protected status to renew work permits and deportation protections, extending the program for El Salvador until March of 2026 and Sudan, Ukraine, and Venezuela until October of 2026. The TPS designation created by Congress in 1990 has been used by presidents from Republicans and Democratic administrations to offer legal reprieve to people from countries struck by natural disaster, armed conflict, or other extraordinary or temporary conditions. The Trump administration is expected to scale back the policy as the incoming president looks to enact tougher immigration rules and forge ahead with mass deportation, while TPS designation can be revoked by the DHS secretary as long as the government provides a 60-day notice. President Joe Biden's move to extend protections could delay Trump's attempt to end them. And as we round this article out, during his first term, Trump tried to end TPS protections for hundreds of thousands of immigrants, only to be stymied by court challenges. And I'm not sure if you all are aware of this, but if I remember correctly, Biden on his way out, he packed these federal courts out with DNC judges, right? He actually put in place some more judges than Trump did, during the time that he was in office from, 2016 to 2020, if I'm not mistaken, right? So they have everything in place right now to essentially try to sue Trump into oblivion as he tries to engage in mass deportation efforts. So once again, roadblocks have been put up like crazy. Here we have this article here. Chicago official slams Brandon Johnson's new ICE guidelines. Who is the mayor trying to protect? Chicago officials slammed Mayor Brandon Johnson for issuing new guidelines for dealing with immigration and customs enforcement ahead of President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration. Johnson said on Friday, released guidelines, Johnson on Friday released guidelines on how to handle ICE visits on city property while reframing his administration's, while reaffirming his administration's commitment to the welcoming city ordinance. What I'm getting ready to read to you right now is completely ridiculous, because what I'm getting ready to read to you right now, which Brandon Johnson has put forth, is essentially a guide on how to avoid the feds. Because you got to remember, when you're talking about ICE agents, they're federal agents, so that makes them, right, feds, right? Wouldn't it be nice if mayors and governors would give US citizens like a guide on how to evade the feds, how to get around the feds, how not to get captured by the feds if for some reason we have fed charges on us if we violated federal law? That would be nice, wouldn't it? But of course, illegal immigrants have essentially more protections than citizens do. Because, like I said, what I'm getting ready to read to you right now from Brandon Johnson is how to avoid the feds if you're an illegal immigrant, avoiding the feds one-on-one. It states here, bracing for a change in federal administration, the mayor's office assured the cities would continue to comply with the 2017 Illinois Trust Act, which prohibits law enforcement from participating in federal immigration enforcement. Should ICE enter city property, Johnson's guideline advises contact your agency or department's designated attorney or general counsel for further guidance. Contact the highest ranking official or designated supervisor on site, and do not take any action until that person has arrived. How to evade the feds 101. The guidance says to demand copies of warrants, not to consent to ICE entering any private or sensitive locations, but not to interfere with any search, even if refused. There are further recommendations, including taking notes and keeping written records. And as we round this article out, the mayor and corporation counsel are in communication with department heads about guidelines to ensure Chicago remains a welcoming city for all of its residents, the mayor's office said. Is it really for all of its residents or just for illegal immigrants only? Because once again, it would be nice if us as U.S. citizens, right? It would be nice if mayors and governors would give us a how to avoid the feds one-on-one guide, but that doesn't apply to us, right? U.S. citizens, if the feds are looking for us, local law enforcement can work together with them to find us. But if you're an illegal immigrant, hands off. And that's not how it's supposed to work. That isn't how it's supposed to work, but that's how it does work currently under, Democrat rule in these sanctuary cities. And what I want to pivot to next is a video from Kristi Noem, who will be replacing Alejandro Mayorkas as DHS secretary, or she should be if she's confirmed, which I believe she will be. And I want you to listen to her speak on that for a moment. She's going to take a moment to speak on the fact that if citizens commit a crime, they have to pay for that crime. Why is it different for illegal immigrants? Let's get into this right now. And please hit the like button if you haven't already.
Recognize that this was something they were questioning and that they deserved answers. My goal and my mission is to build trust. We will undertake a large job and a large duty that we have to fulfill, that the American people expect us to do by securing our border, to make sure that our nation is a nation with borders, or we're no nation at all, and that we are making sure that those criminal actors that are perpetuating violence in our communities and in our cities and towns and states are removed from this country, that there's consequences for breaking the law in our country again. There has to be consequences, because when Americans break the law, there's consequences. And why would we ever allow someone to come in from another country and not allow them, and not have consequences, or allow them to continue to go forward and to commit rape and murders and break other laws that endanger our society. So we've had over 13,000 murders that are loose in this country that have come over that border. We've had almost 16,000 rapists and sexual assault perpetuators that are loose in this country right now. 425,000 plus people have criminal convictions that are here illegally in this country that our current administration is doing nothing to round them up and get them out of our country. We will be doing that immediately, and that will be the priority. And that is one of the reasons that today the American people have lost their trust. President Trump will build it back and know that their federal government is accountable to them.
Going back to Chicago, where the mass deportations are supposed to begin, Alderman Ray Lopez and one other alderman in Chicago, they introduced a bill and put forward a bill that would make an amendment to the sanctuary city status, essentially, that they have, right? And it was an amendment that Eric Adams wanted to make. The same thing in New York, that just simply allows the police to cooperate with ICE to arrest deleters and those who violate women, right? And you all know what I mean. She said this stuff herself already, but I'm not going to repeat it. And that was it. Not to lift the sanctuary city status altogether, but just to make it easier for ICE to get these type of violent individuals off the street. And of course, I'm sure as many of you know, or if you don't know, but you're not going to be surprised, the city council in Chicago voted against it. They voted against it. Not surprising at all whatsoever. So then you have to ask yourself, and it goes back to the quote that was from Raymond Lopez, right at the top of that Fox News article. Who are you guys really trying to protect? Who are they really trying to protect when you really think about it? Because when you're talking about Tren de Agua or any of these other, violent criminals that have come across the border illegally, they know that they will be protected in these cities. You can take cover in Chicago, you can take cover in DC, you can take cover in New York, you can take cover in Denver, and we all know you can for sure take cover here in LA where I am. Okay? So who are you really trying to protect? Who are you really trying to protect? And that's the real question. And it appears to me that the people that they're really trying to protect are the criminals. They're trying to protect the criminals. Now, as we carry on with Chicago, what I want to do next is that I want to play this clip here surrounding, I guess you can say, the preparations that some of these horrible councilmen or aldermen are trying to take as it pertains to protecting illegal immigrant criminals, right? So let's get into this right now as we move forward with the stream.
Right now, we're just days away from a new president and what's promised to be the biggest deportation effort in U.S. history. Sources tell CBS News sanctuary cities like Chicago will be targeted as early as Tuesday. Local leaders and immigrant rights groups met this morning in the Pilsen neighborhood to make sure
there are no such thing as immigrant rights groups. They're illegal immigrant right groups. Illegal immigrant rights groups. I just wanted to make that clear.
The community is prepared. Our Noel Brennan was there.
There are good days and bad, Mari Rodriguez says. But she's grateful for every day she works, selling tamales to the Pilsen community. She migrated from Venezuela and has been in Chicago just a year. Mari admits she's fearful about what might happen Tuesday if immigration and customs enforcement officers arrive in Chicago as promised by President-elect Trump's Border Czar.
What I have to interrupt and state is that she actually wouldn't even need to worry about that, or at least not at the moment, right? If Brandon Johnson and these DNC lunatics would actually let Tom Homan do his job and go straight into the jails. These people don't even understand that their woes, their worries, and concerns are coming from the very same officials that claim to be protecting them, but are now looking to hope to use them in their press conferences and in their media networks to spin a narrative saying, look at how Tom Homan is evil. He's grabbed this old woman up who just came here to work. How could he have done this? Homan wasn't even trying to get her, at least not yet. He wasn't even trying to get her, though, off, at the beginning of things. He was just trying to go after the illegal migrant criminals. But you're forcing his hand because, as Homan has stated many times, we're not walking away from illegal immigrants. If we come across you, even though we weren't looking for you, guess what? You're going home. You're going home. The very situation that Brandon Johnson and many of these mayors claim that they don't want to happen, they're actually creating the environment for it.
And we're going to start right here in Chicago, Illinois.
This community has been the subject of attacks and immigration raids going back to the 1960s.
Stop it. Oh, God. He's trying to take it to the 60s. He's trying to take ICE and immigration raids to the 60s. Listen, man, back in the 60s, if we're going to really tell the truth about it, bro, you were classified as white. Okay. Stop it. Stop it. Knock it off. Knock it off. Let's not try to use the 60s. In the 60s, this gentleman here would have been classified as white in the 60s. Knock it off. Knock it off. Let's not have all this revisionist history about how ICE raids have been going on since the civil rights movement. Stop it. You're embarrassing yourself right now.
Immigration raids going back to the 1960s. The current threats are nothing new.
Local leaders joined immigrant advocates Saturday to reassure and remind the undocumented community of their rights.
You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to not open the door. You have the right to ask to speak to an attorney.
The reminder comes just a day after a Wall Street Journal report cited sources claiming up to 200 ICE officers are coming to Chicago.
Right now, there is no official statement or order that raids are going to be taking place. Do we expect additional agents to be sent here? Of course. Starting perhaps on Tuesday, we don't know. It's going to take time. The important thing is to remain calm, as Chicago has done when tested in other times as well.
ICE raids happened in Chicago in 2018, but in 2022, the American Civil Liberties Union settled a lawsuit with the Department of Homeland Security that changed how ICE can work in Illinois.
Well, ICE should not be going up to random people on the streets and asking to see their documentation, and that's why it's important that people know that they have the right to remain silent if ICE does do that.
The message in this room is not to be afraid, but be prepared.
Regardless of your legal status, you have rights.
Noel Brennan, CBS News, Chicago.
They have more rights than American citizens, apparently. Because as I've stated over and over and over again, God forbid if the feds were looking for me, local law enforcement's for sure going to help them. But if they're looking for illegal immigrants, hands off, hands off. Now, as we round things out and we close this stream out, I want to play this one last video here that many of you may be aware of. It's something that's completely ridiculous, but it also speaks volumes. And you're going to hear why I say it's ridiculous. I'm going to get into why it's ridiculous in a minute, right? But did you know that a lot of these so-called asylum seekers, did you know that they've already begun self-deporting? Self-deporting. They're leaving on their own, as opposed to having, Homan get them up out of here. Completely ridiculous. And I'm going to tell you why it's ridiculous in a moment. Not because they shouldn't go, but I won't say too much. I'll get to that. But let's get into this first.
Minutes to the top of the hour here, and President-elect Trump has promised to carry out the largest deportation operation in U.S. history. And before those operations begin, some migrants are already choosing to leave the country voluntarily. News Nation's Jorge Ventura joins us live from San Antonio, Texas this morning with more on this story. Jorge, how many migrants are we actually seeing doing this, leaving voluntarily?
Right now, Marky, it's unclear, but we are starting to see a trend, and this comes as cities across the U.S. and Mexico are now bracing for President-elect's deportation operation. But his hardline messaging on those deportation efforts have some migrants panicking and some even choosing now to self-deport back to their home countries. I spoke with immigration attorney Rolando Vasquez, who tells me that some of the immigrants that he represents that entered under the Biden administration are now choosing to return home, fearing deportation under the incoming administration.
Just as recent as yesterday, they notified me that they're going to depart the country voluntarily, and understanding that, the Trump administration is going to carry through on their promises.
I'm going to finish this out. It's probably about maybe a minute and a half left. Why do I say it's ridiculous? This goes to show you that as it pertains to this Biden-made migrant crisis, a crisis that he intentionally, deliberately created, Biden and Harris, all of these so-called asylum seekers were never seeking asylum. They were never seeking asylum. They were taking advantages of all the freebies. And now that it looks like the freebies are going to run out, they say, well, I guess it's time for me to go home. I'll try back again if another Democrat takes office. But let me go ahead, head on out. But it was fun while it lasted. The freebies were nice while it lasted. This was a nice little 4-year vacation. But it's time for me to head back home. But I'll be back when the next Democrat president wins office. I'll be back then. Really think about that. These people were never asylum seekers to begin with, because if you were actually fleeing persecution, if you were actually fleeing from a complete war-torn situation in which the country is completely upside down, you would never, you're going to have to come look for me. Homan's gonna have to come get me. Okay. Shout, shout out to my man KO for this benefit, man. What's going on, bro? But if I was an illegal immigrant and I was genuinely seeking asylum, coming from an upside down failed state where I'm actually fleeing persecution, Homan's going to have to come look for me. I'm not self-deporting. And the fact that all these folks are self-deporting, apparently in fear of deportation, goes to show that they were never asylum seekers to begin with. Just illegal immigrants. Nothing more, nothing less. Just illegal.
And it's not just Trump's deportation plans that are influenced these decisions. Vasquez says it's also that Mexico is now open to accepting non-Mexican deportees. Mexico's move would impact Cuban and Venezuelan migrants the most, since those countries typically do not accept deportation flights from the U.S., but may from Mexico.
This is causing for many migrants to leave on their own, knowing that they're either going to be deported to their home country or be deported to Mexico. And they obviously, the overwhelming majority of them do not want to be in Mexico.
And my sources in Mexico tell me that it's likely that cartels and smugglers will exploit, kidnap, and extort those newly deported migrants. As of right now, it's unclear if Mexico has a plan to protect those deported migrants, Marky.
Yeah, border's about to change on Monday. At least that's what voters were promised. Jorge Ventura, thank you so much, live from San Antonio this morning.
Yep. Things are going to change and change very quickly in just a couple of hours. They're going to change and change fast. And I'm here for it and can't wait for it. January 20th is mass deportation. Well, it's MLK Day. Let me not be disrespectful to MLK. Okay. It's MLK Day, January 20th, if I'm not mistaken. But it's also mass deportation day. But shout out to my man MLK. Okay. No disrespect, brother, from beyond. No disrespect, but at this moment in history, right here, right now, I'm gonna have to just acknowledge tomorrow is mass deportation day, right? But that's just for this year only. And then you got it for the next couple of years on, at least for as long as Democrats don't get back in office and create another migrant crisis. So with all that being said, that does it for today's show. I want to thank you all for joining me today, man. And shout out to those of you who almost have me at hitting the goal. Strong and Grand held me down with three $10 super chats. Cynthia Haynes with one $10 super chat. We are one away from hitting that 5 super chat goal of $10. So I appreciate you guys for that. Okay. And as I close this thing out, thank you all for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video out on your social media platform. And also don't forget to follow me on Rumble. The link is in my description box and pinned in the comment section. And follow me on Telegram as well, at TD Media Group. Telegram is so important that you follow me on Telegram, okay? Because that's how we circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. Now, what I want to do in closing is that I want to read the super chats very quickly, right? Let's read through these super chats because I cannot leave without giving my gratitude to you all that keep this channel alive. And I'll thank my man. I don't know if you're a man or a woman, but it's just like default. I'll thank my man. I will thank the Geek Surgeon for helping us hit that goal. I appreciate you, Geek Surgeon. We hit the goal, the $10 super chat goal. I appreciate you, Geek Surgeon, for dropping that last 10 in there for me. Thank you so much for keeping this channel alive, as well as Jet Black, who stated, hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Time to go. Homan said it is time to go home, and he's taking the handcuffs off of ICE. Okay, time to hit the road. Black Free Thinker said someone leaker needs jail time. Much love, TD. I appreciate you. Thank you very much for the support. And yeah, that's messed up and crazy, man, that somebody would actually leak detailed operations as to location, time, and place where ICE was supposed to be hitting these very specific areas in Chicago. to go out to train day at Iowa, putting literally everybody's life at risk. That's crazy. Jerry Early said, thank you, TDMG. Your brother over here in Gardena, but back to Hawaii soon. Okay, you're back over here in Cali for the moment, but you're headed back to Hawaii soon. I appreciate you, Jerry Early. You're always showing love, man. Thank you so much, bro. Jacked said, what are the chances of the emperor getting recalled? Well, and for those of you who don't know, when he says the emperor, he's talking about Emperor Brandon Johnson, right? The emperor of the People's Republic of Chicago. That's in the hands of the state right now because they have to pass through that legislation that was introduced, I think it was last week, that would allow the citizens of Chicago to recall the mayor. They're definitely ready over there. I think once that legislation gets passed on a state level, things will move rather swiftly, but it's on them to get that done over there, and hopefully they'll do that. The Geek Surgeon said, I wonder if Homan will charge Johnson and officers for obstruction. Well, they better tread lightly, they better tread lightly, because I know Homan will make sure that that happens, right? He'll make sure that that happens if they do get in the way. My man JD Informant said, TD chat, why are folks celebrating Marcus Garvey's pardon? What? M. Garvey? Is that Marcus Garvey? Why are folks celebrating M. Garvey pardon? Did Marcus Garvey did Joe Biden pardon Marcus Garvey? Is that what happened? Because I know technically, like on the books, like Marcus Garvey is like what, like a deported criminal in the United States or something like that. Technically on the books, did he pardon Marcus Garvey? That's so stupid. Okay, I guess. That's crazy. That's crazy. Shout out to Strong and Grand, who came through a few times, said the Dems' usual strategy, throwing out so many race cards they can play 52 pickup. That's a fact. Strong and Grand ran it back and said another thing. Some of these illegals have been here for years and never bothered to work towards citizenship. Well, Chicago is getting what they voted for. That's what many people say when it comes to Chicago. They're getting what they voted for with the foolishness. My man KO Kid Fit with the classic line, toot up time is over. Toot up time is definitely over. No more tooting up. No more tooting up, KO Kid fan. Toot up time is definitely over. Now that Trump is in office, Strong and Grand came back again and said, if you see what's happening in Western Europe, we are fortunate that Trump got reelected. Check out the grooming gang scandal in the UK. I heard about that. I actually heard about that. I think that's involving. Well, I don't want to. I don't want to I don't want to speak on something that I don't know about. But I did hear about that. And yeah, they're dealing with migrant crisis over there too, big time. But as far as that, grooming gang scandal, I heard about that. I'll definitely look into it a little bit more. But like I said, I don't want to say too much because I don't know much about it, and I don't want to just kind of make stuff up. Shout out to Cynthia Haynes. Cynthia Haynes stated, I helped 5 Black women families who were homeless, who were unable to receive free funding and resources, but the illegal immigrants and etc. I know, right? Right? You have American citizen families who can't find help in places like Chicago. But Biden's migrants, Harris's migrants, they're getting it all. They're getting it all. That's unbelievable. You caught the super chat went on to say, unfortunately, them folks have to go ASAP. Yeah, time to go. Like Kale Kid Fit said, toot up time is over. Geek Surgeon said, we at the goal. I appreciate you, Geek Surgeon. And to round it all out, Revelator, the spirit of indifference, said, those illegals have rights. All right. They have the right to get the F out this country since they don't contribute nothing to our system. I appreciate you, Revelator, the spirit of indifference. I think you might have my favorite YouTube name. Revelator, the spirit of indifference. Fanteezy was my favorite name for a while now, but that's a pretty dope name. That's a pretty dope name, and I appreciate your support, bro. Thank you very much, and thank you all for joining me today. So once again, please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video out on your social media platforms, and also don't forget, please follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. The link to my Telegram is in the description box below, and will be pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time, and until the next video, have a great evening. Peace.